Greetings, it's Johnny. So, St. Patty's Day, which is corned beef and cabbage, which was just a few days ago, I can't do corned beef and cabbage. Like 4 ounces of just the corned beef alone is over 1,000 milligrams of sodium. Yeah, as much as I really love. Obviously, I love corned beef and cabbage. Anything that's salty, I love. So, my buddies at Butcher Box sent me this nice piece of grass-fed corn brisket. And it is 2 3/4 pounds. Now it's not a huge slab like many of them you see on the channels are, but it says here, cook thoroughly to internal temperature of 135 degrees for medium, 145 for medium well, 155. Or medium well. Rare for 135. So I was looking online on all kinds of YouTube videos, and you probably find it hard to believe, but nobody on there cooks with a low sodium diet. It would seem to me if someone really that wanted to have a cool cooking show, they would have one that was the kind of cook without salt. But they don't. Grass-fed, finished, raised without added hormones or antibiotics, which is just what we want to hear. It's a 4-ounce serving. There's 11 of them and 65 milligrams of sodium. So all meat has some amount of sodium in it. Most things do. It's just whether or not you want to have more. So what I'm going to do here today on video, this is going to be my first time. I'm going to make up my own rub. And you guys are going to be here to see it. And then I'm going to wrap it up. I don't have a smoker or a charcoal grill outside. As you know, I do most of my cooking on my my cast iron skillet. But this is going to cook in the oven. So I have just warmed up my oven to 350. Now, my oven is off by 50 degrees. I put a label on it because I've replaced the sensor twice. And it's still off. And all the King's horses, I can't get it to calibrate to where it's supposed to be. So, as you know, digital stoves, anything that has a digital computer in it now, that's the failure, is the oven temperature failure. Which most repair techs will say, well, we can't get you that computer board, but we can get you a brand new stove for just a few dollars more. We'll take your stove, we'll fix it, we'll resell it. When we couldn't get the board for you, but we could get the board to resell it. Because otherwise, someone's going to make a reef of used stoves. And when was the last time you saw somebody sinking used stoves in the ocean to make a wreath? You see ships and ships and more ships, but you don't see stoves. So, you're going to get a bowl. That's the question of which bowl to use, because there's so many to choose from. So I'm going to get a bowl out, and I am going to make a rub. Now, a lot of people use mustard So I chose to take the low sodium route, and I'm going to use a mustard seed powder instead. I'm also going to use olive oil. So I'm going to put olive oil on the meat. And then, so I'm going to measure off scientifically, because you know me, I'm scientifically inclined. And we're going to take some mustard seed powder. Now I would use brown sugar, because everybody uses brown sugar, but for some reason my brown sugar is like a block. It is harder than a cinder block. So I'm going to use turbinated cane sugar from sugar canes, not from beets. So I'm going to pour some of that in there. Scientifically measured out. And what else do I wish to use? I wish to use onion powder, but I didn't order onion powder. So we're going to throw in some black pepper. Scientifically measured out. Maybe I should have got a bigger bowl. And I want to put in some garlic. Do I want to put some ginger root in? I'm mixing up all my combination jars. I think for the heck of it, I'm going to put some ginger in. Just a tad. Not a lot. Because when we think of ginger, we think of candied ginger. And that's not quite the same as black pepper, sugar. Where is my garlic? Gonna have to get some more garlic powder. A little garlic powder in there. Wanted onions. I have basil, or I think we'll use some Italian seasoning. I think that's probably good. It's almost like my love potion, isn't it? Doesn't have turmeric in it. It's supposed to be on the sweet side. So, you know what I could have done is put this into a jar, shook it up in a jar. But a bit old-fashioned. So I'm going to tip. We're tipping the camera. Show you what I'm doing. There we go. So we got all our ingredients mixed in. We're going to mix them all together. We've got a kitten visiting us because she wants to be on camera. That looks pretty good. And then we have our nice brisket. So what I'm going to do, I gotta put my gloves on. Just because I was at a doctor's office this week, actually the wound center, and the surgeon doctor there, because all the doctors, the wound center are surgeons, and he was telling me about how to cook a brisket. Now, a surgeon is going to know the best thing about meat. It sounds gross, but so what I'm going to do is, because since I hate cleaning up after myself, is that I am going to put a piece of foil into my dish. Now what would be good would be to have something like a wine of sorts, but I don't have wine, since I don't drink for the most part, so this is just pitch the oozings. Now we want to open up this good bad boy. So, 2.5. I have to check my calculations to see how long to cook it for. It doesn't say in here how long. It just tells you the time. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Let rest for 3 minutes. You want to let it rest longer than that. Watching a lot of smoker videos, they're talking about you really want to let your meat rest for a while, like, you know, an hour, maybe 2 hours. Oh. Well, they say to pat it dry, try to get most of the liquid off of it. And then I don't know why there's a slice in this. Probably thought no one would notice. Alright, so what I want to do piece of foil. Do another piece. We're gonna make them bigger. Probably not big enough piece of foil. Here, I'm going to need another piece of foil. I'm going to drizzle in some olive oil, EVOO. Now this is supposed to be fat side up, so this is working out right. And I didn't even know what I was doing. Now we're gonna liberal amount of rub on here. There. And now we're going to wrap it up like a candy Christmas present. And one more for good measure. There we go. So this is all wrapped up, back side up. And we're gonna put it in the pan like so. And it's gonna go into the oven. So there we go. It's in the oven. This is all guesswork. I suppose I could have just put it in the oven without anything on it and it would cook. Now if I had a smoker, it would go into a smoker. Just if I had a grill, I could do it through a grill too. But we are trying it this way. Now don't tell me that there's something called liquid smoke, because I've looked at liquid smoke and it has salt in it. So the target here is to cook without salt. So I am actually going to turn the camera off and we will see what it does, and we'll come back when it's done. In the meantime, go out and play in some dirt. If you have dirt, if the ground's not frozen, and if you're not covered in snow, like I still am, even though it rained all day yesterday. Be back in a minute. Greetings! If you watch the Fairy Speak video that I just put out, you will see the place that I recorded it in the background. Who uses a dining room table anyway? So anywho, it's been about 2 hours 45 minutes of cook time, and then I let it rest for about a half hour, a little more than a half hour or so. And it's out of the oven, and it's just waiting to be opened. And we'll get to see if I'm successful or if it's going to go out for the bears. And I bet the bears would love it. I suppose if it didn't cook all the way through, we can always cut it up into little pieces and then heat it up in the skillet so it's nice and warm and toasty. So let's see what we have. Maybe we'll pull out the cooking board for meat, as opposed to my cooking boards I use for vegetables. It's like Christmas. Well, it's certainly tender. Oh, look at that. Isn't that pretty? Well, I would say that was a very successful thing. Now, if it works for this, it'll work for ribs, for ribs. And I have a couple of racks of ribs that I got from Butcher Block. Well, there's a lot of fat on the piece. Now maybe that's typical for a brisket to have a lot of fat. And I suppose if I didn't wrap it up in foil and put it in a smoker, the outside of it would have been real crispy. I suppose if I had taken it out of the wrapper and put it in the oven again, I could get the edges to be real crispy. But on the other hand, who cares? The point is to make a beef that's tasty and chewy and actually cooked. So this is a successful shoot. Nothing like recording a video and then having to just delete it. That's not so much fun either. So like I say, I have a couple of racks of ribs in there. I could use the same technique to cook them. Maybe I'll get a smoker, but I doubt it because I'd rather buy another piece of camera equipment for as much as I will use it. So there's some nice pieces in here. I'm not big on all the fat, but there are some really nice pieces in here. You know, like that's a big piece of fat right there. Trim off some of the fat. but I might think twice about ordering one of these large pieces of meat now that I have a way of cooking it and having it come out pretty darn good. I guess in a way, since the way it's cooked, it's kind of like steaming it. But if you cooked it in a crock pot, it's kind of the same thing. There we go. So, some of you are on a low sodium diet like me. Don't be afraid to try something new. Make your own seasoning. Just look at what other people use for a rub and take out the salt and copy it. You don't need the salt. People love salt. People love salt. Look at everything out there is full of salt. And if it's not full of salt, they add it in there thinking that you need it. Now, some restaurants, just a little tippy poo, some restaurants will serve you appetizers high in salt so that you continue to order more alcoholic beverages to make your bill go up and make them make more money from you. Because you're saying you're always thirsty. If you stay there, you get appetizers that are high in salt, you're going to keep drinking. You're never going to be able to quench your thirst. You're going to have some meals, it's going to be high in salt, you're going to drink more, you're going to have dessert. Yeah. I really don't like those people like me that order water or tea. But until next time, keep on cooking with low salt. No salt, low salt, but get the salt out of your food plan.